Joining us right now from some location, somewhere in the world, Mike from around the world. Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing all right tonight, Pastor Paul. How about you?
Well, I feel pretty good. I'm concerned about a lot of things, but I feel good because I guess I'm resting in the arms of the Lord. Is that
all right?
Is that good?
That's it. It's
all
a
right.
place to be.
Mike, tonight, I don't know. We could talk about Netanyahu and Gaza and the UN meetings that are coming up. It feels like a showdown, the world against Israel. We could talk about Putin, Trump. They're going to meet. Why don't we start there? And then what about that comet we can talk about? Or what is it? Is it a comet? That interstellar thing? The earthquake in Russia is still happening, shaking everywhere. There's other now that there was an announcement that the next mega quake will be, or they're predicting the next big earthquake to hit America will be San Francisco before the year 2032. Do you want to start there?
Well, I mean, you can. That's one of the more potent problems that we face right now.
What do you think? Why would they? And we're talking to some of the top seismologists and U.S. Geological Survey. So why? What is it that they see to make them think this way?
Oh, they know the fault line, the Cocos Plate and Juan de Fuca Plate and Pacific Plate. In general, the entire Ring of Fire plate, right? That Pacific Plate is about to do something that is not so good. Let me explain. And of course, California is right on the edge of that Pacific Plate, with the, in line with the Juan de Fuca Plate. That one's going to go also. That one is starting to rattle already. But in Russia, when we had this earthquake, the Eurasian Plate,
yes,
near that earthquake, is a very delicate plate. It's been there for a long time. And ice is right there where that earthquake hit, right there where the volcanoes are.
Yes.
In that area, all that volcanic activity is starting to pick up. All right, things are waking up around there. But it's causing a horrific ice melt. And it's somewhat of an emergency. Now, that ice is a cushion, right? Without the ice, when that ice goes, you're going to have tectonic shifting that will take place.
Really?
And
I never thought about
an immediate issue, right? So this of all the places on Earth, that is one of the worst places we could have one. The ice is melting due to all the magma and everything else, is raising that temperature down deep below the Earth. I mean, it's melting at a pretty solid rate. In fact, in the waters, they had filmed sea life almost exploding out of the water from deep, deep, deep down in those waters.
Is that over by Russia?
Yes. Right there where the volcano and the earthquake hit, right there, the epicenter of the earthquake.
So you're saying
right there, they saw sea life coming up from very deep. I mean, they were breaching the water, as though, something bad was happening down there. So, and that's normally, you have a lot of, you have cold temperatures, ice down there, especially in between the plates of the Earth, right there. Eurasian, Philippine Plate, and Pacific Plate, of course. That piece of the North American Plate, but it's all about to give way because the ice is melting. Now, that ice right now is down at a very dangerous level. It's going to continue to melt. Magma will continue to flow, and that the entire Pacific Plate will become active. They know this. USGS, they know this. That's why they're giving that warning to the USA for the North American Plate or for California.
Because you're saying the ice melting is it will affect these plates. Because they
right.
release the plates because the ice is kind of helping hold the plates where they're at.
That's right. That ice is in between. It is jammed in between the Pacific Plate, North American plates, and the Eurasian plates, right there where that earthquake hit. If that ice melts, you're going to have an entire plate shift. right? When that plate shifts on any side, it's going to cause earthquakes all the way around. They suspect it's going to be directly in line with the earthquake in Russia. That would be San Francisco.
Wow.
On the opposite side.
Oh,
right?
Because that's why. I mean, they're saying San Francisco is the next one. San Francisco. I mean, it's incredible. And they even predict it will happen before 2032. Do you think so?
Yeah, that's why. That's why the ice is melting, and it's going to happen way before. You know what? I put that down. The earthquakes are not finished. I suspect that we're going to have some 8.4s, some 8.6s around that ring of fire, simply because that cushion of ice is going away. And when it's gone, the plates are going to slam against each other in that area, right? Which is going to open up the pressure on the entire west coast of the USA, down by the Coast Plate and the Nazca Plate. So all that pressure on those plates is going to be released all of a sudden. That will not, anybody who studies fault lines, they know that's not good. Pressure is what is keeping the plates stable. We're about to lose that pressure big time. This earthquake caused those eruptions. Those eruptions has magma on the move. That magma is melting the ice in that trench.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question? Because when the 8.8, which was the sixth, tied for the sixth largest earthquake that we have on record, and so this volcano that had been dormant wasn't even showing any seismic activity. 600 years. Just blew. I mean, this thing just blew the very next day. How can a earthquake, did it just send a ton of magma in that direction and blow it up? I mean, how did that happen?
A volcano is constantly under pressure. Whether it's dormant or not, you have lava tubes down below that volcano. If you have an earthquake, right, and say you have a wall of rock that's stopping the magma from going to the surface, which normally happens, an earthquake will then vibrate that rock, causing microfractures and fractures. The magma begins to breach. If it can find a small crack to go up through, right, it'll begin to melt the rock on its way up, making a larger and larger vent or hole, right? Then you have these big eruptions. That's what happened in that case. It was a wall of rock that was shaken. Likely, tiny bits of magma began to breach, and then you have an eruption a little later. It's not done. You have more. That whole area is full of volcanoes. I mean, full of them. And so magma, you're talking about an area with, you should look at that area just for volcanoes. You'll be shocked.
Up there by Russia?
Those volcanoes are waking up. Yeah.
Is that part of the Aleutian Islands that goes over to Alaska? I mean,
well, that right there where that is, right? You'd have to go. It is Alaska's, to the west, to the east of that, but in that area itself is such a delicate area because of the ice. The temperature is important in that area. You have all these eruptions. You're going to have a severe ice melt episode take place, and then we're going to have greater tectonic shifting take place. We're going to have tectonic shifting, right? This earthquake has set us on a course in a brand new paradigm that we've never witnessed before.
Really? Now, what do you think about the timing of this earthquake, volcano, and tsunami, and continual shaking that's going on? I mean, I read all the earthquakes, everybody. With this coming, whatever this is it a comet? Mike, is it a comet? What do you think it is? Atlas?
It's be careful with this one.
Yeah,
it's difficult to say, right? But I will say this: in about 3 days, because they're going to be able to observe this all the way up until September, and we should see. And if anybody looks at it right now, they should start to see gassing, right? If it indeed is a comet. it'll start to produce gassing, a gassing
Some
effect
kind of tail?
on the side facing the sun, and that causes a tail. That gassing effect should cause a tail, but we should be able to see that next from this moment right now. Within a 3-day period, we should see some kind of gassing. If it's a comet, it's going to have gassing, right? And so if it has gassing, it's going to be a comet. But if it has no gassing, then everybody's going to recalculate some things.
And now it's the fastest item to ever come into our solar system.
Yeah. I ran some calculations. And an object can build up speed even faster than that if it's unimpeded when it's traveling out in deep space, because stars are going to have gravitational pull, and it's going to increase the speed of these objects. The weird part is, it hasn't hit anything in a long, long time. We're talking about, that's millions of years likely. It hasn't hit anything, which is strange, right? Kind of gives us a different picture of the nature of space. But if it's coming into our solar system, the route it's taking is looking more and more dangerous, because it may, in fact, strike a few objects on the way in. I don't know if they are discussing this, but they always seem to, when you have these objects that come in from deep space, one of the more immediate dangers is it aligned in such a way that it can actually strike other, debris objects within our solar system. If that ever takes place, the problem is not going to be that object at all. We're going to have a different set of problems. And that should be looked at. That should really be looked at. Pastor, can you imagine something coming into our solar system, hitting the asteroid belt?
No.
And then that debris come towards us? Can you imagine that? That's exactly what would happen. It would come towards us.
Is this thing going to go through our asteroid belt on the way in?
If we have, the way the asteroid belt is, the way they illustrate the asteroid belt is kind of weird. The asteroid belt is tall, right? It's very wide, but it's also tall. And the taller it gets, of course, you have lesser and lesser debris at the top and the bottom. But it could hit some objects from the asteroid belt going through some of those places, because I don't believe the arc is high enough. I just don't.
Oh.
If it strikes that debris, it's going to send rocks in our direction. And here's what's dangerous about the asteroid belt. They know for a fact it is biological material in the asteroid belt on those rocks. We don't want those rocks. That's not what we want. That would, diseases and everything else could be on those rocks.
Viruses. Yeah.
And it's already a known fact that most viruses come from outside the planet, right?
Yeah.
And they come here, hitchhikers on comets and things like that. So, this is going to be a very different situation. It could very well release a lot of plagues on this planet.
Oh, no. Yeah, you're right, because we've seen, some of the plagues that's been on the earth over the centuries have been when a comet or some kind of major impact hit the earth, because they're bringing viruses from beyond our world into
when
our
we go
world.
through we go through the tail, right? That stuff has biological material in it, and we're just not equipped to handle those things as a whole. We're not, and so we get some pretty weird diseases hitting Earth. And it's a known fact that viruses are 700 times more potent in space.
What?
They thrive in space. Yep.
700.
Every virus they took to the ISS was 700 times more potent in space than it is here.
Okay.
In fact, viruses thrive in space. I mean, they really thrive. So it's almost like their natural habitat is more like space. And just in case People don't understand a virus. A virus is neither alive nor is it dead. It's something in between.
Wait a minute. That's crazy. So you're saying if we take a virus here from Earth and we put it and send it into space, let's say it becomes 700 times more powerful.
That's right.
Why?
That's right.
That's right.
Because when they're in with a lack of atmosphere and in 0G, they really begin to thrive. They become twice as potent, very active. And of course, they did this on the ISS, outside the ISS, not even inside the ISS, but outside. Right? They also found that certain species of algae starts to grow like crazy, right, in space. So what they were doing was trying to find out are there any of these things that are on Earth that thrive in space? Because if they do, there's a high probability that that's where they come from, somewhere from out there, external. And it makes me think, because every time in the Bible, when the Lord would send a plague, right, it kind of changes how you're interpreting those scriptures now,
I'm sorry. So, Sally Fields, which I think she's an actor, isn't she? Was she in that movie, Sleepless? No, that wasn't her in Sleepless in Seattle. What movie was she in, Mike? Sally Fields.
Oh boy,
bunch of them.
Yeah, I'm probably the wrong person for movies.
Well, she's saying right here. I just threw this. Paul Begley is a CIA MI6 Israeli controlled paid asset. Mike, can you help us on that one?
Yeah, give me an application. I'll join you.
Okay, let's get back to serious. I'm neither a CIA or MI6. Go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
Oh boy,
that was crazy.
Anyway, we face that type of scenario, and it's a very real one with these inbound objects. And of course, when you think in those terms, and because we don't know what that thing is, nobody is. I'm sure that somebody knows, they're just not telling it. But this thing is odd. It really is. And if it just so happens to be something else, well, we're going to find out one way or another. We will find out.
This is a weird thing, but Clyde Lewis is, he's got a syndicated radio show. It's about 300 channels. I'm going to be on his show tonight after this show for an hour from midnight to 1. The reason he asked me to come on is because some of the James Webb satellite pictures of this shows 4 like big rocks in a cube. They're positioned in a cube. Now, maybe just the angle, James Webb, I'm sure it's not a cube coming. I mean, it can't be, right? But he's asking, Paul, is the New Jerusalem that's coming out of heaven, is that thing 4 square? I'm like, yeah, but I don't.
It's a cube. In space basketball, they have detected a few objects. Well, one in particular that they continue to watch it is in fact a cube.
Really?
So, and I think this year alone has been a 600% increase in people who have seen smaller cubes in the atmosphere. So I can't say that thing is what it's not. I can say that we're going to find out.
Are you concerned? Are you concerned about it, Mike, or is it just something just to study and to help us? Is there more of these coming? Are you concerned about this or no?
Yeah, there is more coming. There is more coming. That's not going to be the only one. We'll entertain at least 3 to 4 more. The objects come from deep space.
Why is Avi Loeb, who's a Harvard astrophysicist, and he's got several now other scientists, and he's got, I don't know how many mathematicians involved in this. Why are they so concerned about this thing as being, because they say it's anti-gravitational acceleration. They say it's traveling at a speed nothing else ever has traveled in. They say it is acting, it's doing things that you can't do unless something else is guiding it. I know he thinks it could be some type of ET thing, but what is there any kind of explanation for what's going on besides God just slinging it? I mean, what's your thoughts?
Well, Avilov is, if you look at his work, he's quite meticulous.
Yeah.
He looks at everything. He's not dismissive like most people, right? So everything is on the table, and he simply starts to deduce what properties this object actually has. And as it becomes clearer and clearer, he'll define it more and more. But he's watching everything. And when he says there's normally when objects have a pretty high speed like that, you can trace it back to find the core or the source of that high speed, right? Could be near a star, maybe ejected from some system or something like that. In this case, if something accelerates and starts to speed up outside of natural gravitational fields that can be observed, well, then you have something that has its own propulsion, right? Kind of like the moon.
Right.
Right? Because the moon should not be in orbit right now. It shouldn't, but it is. So when you see things like that, what is he going to do? Plus, I believe that he has been privy to, like I said, if you walked up to a big megalith stone, right? Maybe it weighed 800 tons, and it was about 6 feet off the ground, and you could push it with your hand, and it's not touching the ground. It's just sitting there floating. I think that would really change your life view forever, right?
Yeah, it would mess me up. Yeah.
That's right. Even if you saw man-made technology of something similar, something with rivets and armor and everything else, and it too is floating like that. You can push it a baby could push it and move it to wherever the baby wanted it. Yet that object would, be about a 2,000-ton object. I think that would absolutely alter your worldview of what is possible, what is not, and if we can do it, or surely something else out there has done it. And if he believes in the narrative of the fallen angels, like we do,
yeah, I think
they were not born here on this earth. They weren't born here.
No, you're right.
Right,
you're right.
I don't believe he subscribes to this other new religion that's rising against Christ.
No.
The one where they say that Satan is the God of the Old Testament. That came from a specific doctrine. I know he doesn't subscribe to that. So then the fallen angel narrative is something quite real. You mix that with what Harvard has had going through its hallways. Some of the objects and artifacts that they've actually had are mind-blowing. He has no choice but to be inclusive in things like that.
So that's why I mean, I've talked to him about his faith as far as, he's Jewish, and the fact that,
right.
He studies the Old Testament very religiously. And at the same time, he's saying, there's things, Paul, you're just not aware of. I mean, is that what you're saying? That he's privy to some things that are just absolutely extra human or extra what most of us have any comprehension of. Is that because I think about this a lot. I mean, how in the world did this chariot of fire come down out of heaven and grab Elijah and take him up? Chariot of fire. I mean, that had to have looked like some kind of craft that was never been seen before.
Right.
That's the only best way Elisha could describe it, So
right.
Maybe we're not privy to everything. I mean, I know we're not privy to everything. So you're saying, and I know he knows that. He told me, he said, did you ever think about the burning bush, Paul? Why in the world did this thing not burn up?
Right.
What's this? He goes, there's a scientific answer to that. God was in control of that. But how? How? God was in control, he said, but how? Because there's always a scientific answer to what God does. Do you think
he's
that's
privy?
True?
Sure, he's privy to a lot. For example, there are metals that used to be here on this earth, right? And there's some samples of this metal on this earth.
Yeah.
These metals will blow your mind. They'll blow your mind. They have properties that are more quantum than anything else. And to observe these metals will just blow your mind. And it's just metal, right? Mankind has built memory metal, right? Not the memory metal they introduced to people in documentaries, but say they had a cell phone case and it was made of memory metal, and you took that same cell phone case and ran over it, balled it up, cranked it, hammered it, sledgehammered it, and everything else. Give it about an hour, and it's right back to its original shape.
No, I'd be messed up if I saw that. I mean, I really would, Mike.
Yeah, they had that. Something that was man-made, something that was perfected back in the 70s. Just think about that. That was back in the 70s.
No.
They had this. Okay, so that means they have self-healing armor, right? They field tested some of that on some of the Abrams tanks that are out there.
Okay.
So you just totally mess up the metal, but it's mixed with elements that nobody can get their hands on. It's kind of like element 115, right?
What's that?
You have a guy back in remember that the guy they called a weirdo, Bob Lazar.
Oh yeah,
He told everybody about element 115.
Okay.
Well, back then it didn't exist, and they laughed, and the scientific community laughed at him. Right? Element 115 is a real element. It's on the periodic table, but this was long after he said there was an element 115.
So he knew about an element before anybody else. I mean, before the
because he worked there.
He
worked at Area 51. That was proven.
Yes,
he worked
did.
there.
Yes,
there are pictures of him working there, and he did interact with some exotic systems. That's why you have some of these military guys that are coming out right now, not just normal military guys. You're looking at Delta operators that are under protective orders right now, the special ops personnel that are under protective orders right now, and they're coming out with their stories and testimony to tell people their truth, which is, I can guarantee, is a truth that people can live without. But since nobody is going to rest until it comes out, some of these guys, I can tell you right now, they will not exist for the whole process of this coming out. Right?
Well, they won't exist because they'll be eliminated because they're going to.
Yes, they will. Yes, they will. Yes, they most certainly will. There is no amount of protection a person can have to. It's just, and these guys have real. You can tell they're broken. These guys are broken. But they've had real careers in special operations communities, right?
Yep.
And so you don't have that by being a broken person, or a liar or something like that. These are folks of integrity.
Now this guy right here, Mike, and I'm sure you know who he is, Luis Elizondo.
Mm-hmm.
Heidi actually walked up and talked to him for a while. He was speaking at a Mensa conference in Chicago. I was not at this one. She walked up to him and he talked to her for a while, and he agreed to come for me to interview him for not this webinar we're going to do in August, but for the one that's coming later in the fall. So I will be interviewing him. We've already got him booked, and he's a really nice guy. But again, he used to be he's the former head of the Department of Defense Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program.
Yeah.
And he's been involved in dealing with, things that like Bob Lazar has been involved in. So these guys have seen things. Mike, have they seen things? Have you seen things, Mike, that would blow our minds? That's a question, I guess.
I've seen things that still blow my mind. I tell you this, Pascal. I'm not a person who will ever say something is impossible, right?
Because you've seen some things.
Also, I'm going to cling to scripture.
Okay,
right?
I like that.
With me, I'm never going to go outside of scripture.
Amen.
Because the more you know about that stuff, the more deceit you see. Deceit on a brand new level, right? For example, people say, well, I believe things come here. Nothing needs to come here. Everything is here, right? Most things are right here, right now. Everything is here to witness a type of birth. And all those guys know that. But you have, they're just walls and walls and walls of deceit that you have to go through. And you really can't trust a thing.
I agree.
You really can't. So the biblical narrative is is my true anchor. If I didn't have that biblical narrative, I'd be lost in the sauce. I would know, because you can't trust anybody.
No.
Right?
No.
Like artificial intelligence, right? Do you not know they're putting human skin on robots? And do you know that the robots have fluent movements that are smoother than any human being could ever produce? Now, Elon Musk has finally introduced one of his real robots because it's near release date. These things are so incredibly fluid in their movements that if you didn't know it was a robot, right, driven by artificial intelligence, you would just stake your life on that being a human being.
Wow.
They've had driverless trucks on the highway.
I've seen that
since 2015.
I didn't know that.
No, well, you couldn't tell the public that because they would scream and shut down the programs. There are lots of things that are happening right now that are.
So you're telling me they can actually put I know they can grow human skin. I mean, yeah. But you're saying they can actually put human skin on robots. I mean, silicon or some kind of silicone, I understand. I know that's happening.
No, we're talking skin.
Skin, growing.
We're talking
growing
human skin. That's right, human skin. And the last element, and because they perfected all the motors and everything that goes inside of these things. Actually, it's not even a motor. It's something else they use. Motors are outdated. But and they're growing skin for these things, right? So they're going to be, if you don't look at somebody's direct face, they're going to be indistinguishable from a human being. They do not have jerky movements. They have simulated muscles and everything else through what they call some type of, it's a hydraulic system with no fluid. All right. So in other words, if you squeeze your hand, that robot squeezes its hands, there's an expansion of the forearm, so on and so forth. So yeah, they have that. They even have organs in these things that actually work.
What? What? Wait, what?
Well, you've heard about the artificial blood, right? And you heard about the creation date of the artificial blood back in 2011, and it was going through trials since 2011. So they have human artificial blood that's more beneficial than the blood you have in your body. And people have had their blood replaced with that blood, right? Which has a different type of it has DNA in it, but it does not have the kill instructions of the DNA that normal blood does. These are things they're doing. So you got people walking around with purple blood, right? Not red blood. You have people walking around with, just to know what's walking around will blow your mind. It blow your mind.
First of
they
all,
already know, and they call one of the biggest eye openers that I didn't pay attention to, even in my service career, was the word container. That's what they call a human being. That's what they call every person is a container. This is what they have an understanding of, which means they understand what the soul is. They understand what the spirit is, right? And these guys, half of these guys are responsible for making up the false stories about human creation, like Carthyism and all these doctrines that come out, right? They were behind it. They wrote it because they understand the spirit and they understand the story of the Elohims and what's really happening here on this earth. And so those people are, once you get into certain areas, if you're ever briefed in that area, you're involved in a type of lifetime war, they call it.
All right, Mike. You've just blew my mind several times, so I gotta move on to another area. Mike, let's talk about Trump and Putin and the meeting that they say is coming in days. Maybe I can't nobody can seem to get an actual date or location, and I'm sure that's for security reasons. But it's apparently coming soon, like maybe next week.
I think it'll be days.
What do you think this means? Where will this lead?
Well, keep in mind, Trump was irritated with Russia, very irritated with Russia. And because Putin is who he is, he is who he is. And there's going to be some real, Russia has to do some real soul searching, right? We sit at the brink of war, is what's happening. We sit at the brink of war. And for example, Europe has been preparing for war for 4 years now, about 2 years, seriously. They've been preparing for war. They have adapted all their ports to be inclusive of military transportation of military, logistics. And they have, all the countries around Europe have armed themselves. They have committed 2% of their GDP to defense and defense strategy. So the war machine in Europe is going. The talk between Trump and Putin, suppose it is somewhat successful. The problem is going to be Putin and Europe. That's going to be the problem.
Yeah, that's still the problem, isn't it? That's partly what Putin's whole issue is that since the 1991 Gorbachev Reagan, the NATO has been Poland, the Baltic states, now Sweden and Norway and others. I mean, they've been kind of encroaching around him, and that wasn't supposed to happen. I mean, that's partly what his problem is, right?
Yeah, it is, because they know what they're going to do. They have lied to Russia from day one, right? And if you look carefully right now, it looks like the UN is just simply placating Trump in some way, right? That they're smiling, but you can almost see their true intent. They're kind of smiling away the opposition because people are looking at them. They have high expectations of the UN. But the UN, what has the UN been doing? They have been preparing Europe, all this talk with no war, and they've been spending every dime they have on war. They have been in the process of phasing out Russian fossil fuels. They have made some major moves in this. Are
you talking NATO or European Union, or are you talking
NATO? Period.
Okay.
We're talking NATO. Period.
NATO,
they're phasing out. So Europe itself, Pastor Paul, remember, it was solely dependent. Upon Russian fossil
oil.
fuels.
Yes,
not
do.
Anymore.
No,
not anymore. See, they altered all of this. That's where they've been spending all of their time building bunkers, building safe places for their citizens. They have been getting away from fossil fuels. They've been making some hard choices because as of yesterday, they expected war to happen within a 3-week period with Russia.
Who, between the United States or NATO?
Europe.
NATO.
Europe.
Yeah, okay,
Europe.
Okay, I got
Europe did. They had this expectation. Well, so did Spain. Well, so did the UK. So did all of them. So President Trump, you could consider this emergency talks.
That's what I'm
If they
wondering.
don't take place, we're definitely going to war.
So that's why
and it's
Trump
not going to be.
That's why Trump has jumped in, is what you're saying.
Yes,
why he had to jump in.
Absolutely. Because if he did not, we would likely be in some sort of a nuclear exchange. I mean, the real deal, right? Putin has committed quite a bit of his nuclear assets to bear. He has tripled production of the military machine in Russia.
Wow.
Now, he's supposed to be broke, right?
But he seems
so how can he triple production?
I don't know.
That's absolutely, Intel continues to come back and people are astounded at what they're finding. So somebody's narrative is just not working.
Right. Well, now we don't know. Jerusalem has been named, Helsinki, Finland, maybe Geneva. We're not sure. They're not going to tell. I mean, matter of fact, Putin just released tonight, goes, well, maybe we should just go to Dubai. That might be a good spot. So in other words, we're not finding out where it's going to happen yet for security reasons. We're not sure when it's going to happen for security reasons, but it's going to happen soon because
I'd say within days.
All right. So maybe next week or within very few days. Okay. Yep. Meanwhile, Mike, Benjamin Netanyahu is trying to get ahead of the UN. He knows the UN is going to push hard for a 2-state solution.
Yeah.
So he's trying to come up with a solution in advance by saying, I'm going to take over Gaza, but I don't want it. I just want to secure, I want to get my hostages. I want to stop Hamas. I want to secure the entire perimeter of Gaza. And then the Arabs can come and run it themselves. How do you think that's going to work?
Well, he's going to, he's committed assets in that direction. We already know he will initialize what he has to initialize, unless, even if the USA does not agree with it, he's still going to go forward with it.
Yeah,
the reason why is because a gavel is about to fall. He understands that if the UN, once they're finished with their plans in the Middle East, Israel will not exist as it does now. So if he does not establish his landmass right now, right? He knows that the UN's going to move in.
Take it.
The UN is going to by force. They're going to start governing decisions for Israel. Now, this is going to be one of the most painful things anybody has ever seen. We will likely entertain the UN governing decisions for Israel. And what I mean by that is there will be an immediate movement to take certain folks out of power, to establish a more UN-friendly regime, so to speak, and then they'll quickly move for disarmament, or certainly a pull down or a drawdown of what was the former Israeli state. So those changes that's right out of the Bible. It really is. These guys they're not going to give up. All the nations on this globe are for the UN taking over Israel.
You are right about that. You are right. And there's only, maybe just the United States is about what we're down
That's
to.
That's it. Yeah, we're the only thing. The only reason it has not happened yet is because of President Trump right now.
You're right.
Right? And that's the only reason. And, my stance on that, to be fair. I'm not biased towards or for, against any of these guys. They sit in the seat I don't want to sit in. But he's a different fella. He went through hardships. I believe he went through hardships to get us through a very difficult and hard time. Right? He's been pre-qualified because his conditioning was necessary for what we're about to go through.
Yeah,
we're about to go through some things.
So you're saying
his conditioning is necessary.
That 4 years that he was out of office and the torture he went through. I mean, he really did. Most people would have just said, "Forget it, I'm out. I won't run again." But he believes he has a mandate from God. I mean, he honestly believes that bullet, that he should be dead, that God spared his life to save America and maybe to help certainly stand with Israel and maybe the world. So are you saying, Mike, that they're going to take Israel, in their minds, they're going to try to take Israel down and remove the current government that's there and reshape that entire area? Is that the plan of the United Nations and the world? Because that's the whole world.
Yep. It's that simple.
And that's going to bring about Armageddon. I mean, I'm saying Ezekiel 38.
That's where we're at. Yeah. That's where we're at. It certainly will initialize everything, that nobody will have a question if we're in the last days or not. Now when that begins, but this is what they're going to do, is what they have their eyes set on.
We're about
Benjamin Netanyahu, he knows this.
We're 3.5 years. Trump's got 3.5 years left in office, I guess.
Yeah, that's it.
Unless somebody changes the Constitution. So he'll be leaving. There's a high probability, because I know how government works in America, that it'll swing back to the Democrats. Don't matter who they put in, won't matter who they put in, they'll become anti-Israeli. Am I right?
Yeah, you know what? I do not believe, this is going to sound wild, I do not believe the present government is going to sustain the system we're under now for 3.5 years.
Wow.
I can't accept, I don't believe that.
You don't think America's going to survive the next 3.5 years?
Well, I don't
in
believe
its
the
current
government.
status.
Right. We're not going to be like this for 3.5 years. It's not going to be like this. I mean, surely people can see it right now. They can see this wedge
Are you
between
seeing a
Democrats
civil war then? Is that
and
what you're saying?
Republicans.
Are we going to go into a civil war because
Well,
martial law or something? Because let's face it, this ICE thing, as they're deporting people, you can see the mayor of Los Angeles, you see the governor of California, you can see these lawmakers leaving Texas, going to Illinois. You can see what this communist dude rising up in New York. I mean, you can see there's something seriously happening, right?
let me paint a picture, Pascal, so that everybody knows this. When you have, and this is not to give any side bias, I'm going to paint this picture as people perceive it, as they're living through it. You have people out there that they have no idea about the political situation. All they know is that their family is ripped apart, right?
Yep.
And they hear some of the remarks that they perceive as heartless, some for, some against, but they're torn apart. The children of these families will not forgive the USA for what they did, right?
Yep.
You're looking at, and some of these folks have nothing to do with any of the bad actors in America, but because of you say a withdrawal of the previous administration's policies, and a person who came in here without or the wrong way no longer had the invitation they once did. And so you have a lot of people who are heartbroken, right? Having nothing to do with anything, but they just got caught up in the system. This happens a lot. The problem is these people they're broken. First of all, the kids are broken. They remember that. And so you have a lot of people vowing in all these different countries who have been a part of that. These kids are growing. They're vowing revenge on the USA. Now, the opposite side of that is they look at the news and they see a lot of Americans who understand the situation, but maybe they didn't even know that family that had no idea about American politics. They're looking at people as though they're being scoffed or mocked or something like that. So, yes, they're going to join forces against America. Having said that, all the people we got rid of are connected to other people who now have a vendetta against the USA. That's not helping the situation any.
No.
Because we already had the cartel personnel against us. We already had communist nations against us.
Yep.
We already had communist troops that we were training inside of America under certain programs to get them democratized, if you would. But that didn't work out.
No.
We lost count of Russian soldiers, Chinese soldiers, Middle Eastern soldiers right here in the USA. A pretty high count. So, and then we have the Democrats and the Republicans in this unending feud. And if you could see the faces of some of these senators now, some of these senators are junior senators. They don't really understand the work relationship at the top like that. You can have an argument on the floor, but you don't take that argument but so far, right? They don't understand that. And so what they have done is they have actually caused a movement to form, a very vicious movement, right? So now you have some of these senators and congressmen and congresswomen that go back home in tears. That's not good.
No.
It's not good when a person goes home and they're emotionally compromised, in tears, ready to destroy their opponents, because now they're at the point the states are going to divide. And if you are a Republican, hopefully you don't get found in a Democratic state. If you're a Democrat, hopefully you don't get found in a Republican state. This is happening right before our eyes.
We can see
this
that.
This is happening right now.
We see
right,
that.
And this is happening. So with this divide is going to come a different command structure of both Democrats and Republicans. So we're going to have to go through another struggle, right? Because we simply don't have enough people who remember history. We've already been through this before.
Well, we didn't. We stopped teaching history. We removed we removed it from our schools. We let the communists take over our education system, remove our history of what caused the Civil War in the first place, and here we are again, which I think must be the communist plan, is to cause us to fight and to go.
You bet. You
Am
bet.
I right?
You
Am I
bet.
right?
You bet. And the sad part about this is dealing with history. A lot of people say, well, what's the big deal about history? Here it is. When you have fought and you have bled to establish a good, and that good was established, but the story and the memories of how you fought and how you bled and how you died to establish that does not go forward, then the younger generation is going to say, what's the big deal? It's not so bad, because they have no idea of the fight it took to establish it. So
No,
because
you're
they
right.
don't know that, because they don't know this, they're not going to be sympathetic, nor will they know the signs of it coming again. They will recreate the same instance. So it's going to be another bloodbath, because these young kids are disconnected from the pain and the turmoil and the struggle, right? The sheer grit it took to get to this place in the first place. We don't all agree on everything,
Right.
but as a nation, we have come a long way.
Absolutely.
And it took lots of fights and lots of death and lots of things to work out to get here. But we got here. But now it's all thrown away because history is not being taught.
You're right.
And these young kids are disconnected from the sacrifice of the past. They don't know anything about sacrifice. They only know about me, me, me.
So this is the truth. Everything Mike just said is absolute truth. And we're destined to repeat. I mean, Abraham Lincoln said it. If we don't learn from history, we're destined to repeat it. And we're apparently going to repeat it. And I wonder, Mike, because I had a dream and I seen devastation. I couldn't figure it out. I just said, is that a hurricane? Is that a tornado? Is that a volcano? Or is that a war? I couldn't put my finger on it because it seemed so devastating that I couldn't figure out what in the world caused it. I'm starting to wonder if this was God revealing to me of catastrophic events, that war
It's coming.
is, chaos is coming, and it's
I think
not
it'll be
good.
multifaceted. I do.
You think it's a convergence of things?
Pastor Paul, I've had similar dreams like that. Even the one I told you about where Trump had dust all over his face and
Yeah.
he was just dusty from head to toe. Where California was tilted up on the side, where all the children were gone. I'll tell you something eerie. I've told the dreams before, and then every time I tell it, I say the children are not around, right? There are no children.
Yes.
You know what, Pastor Paul? I went out the other day, and there were no children. And my stomach dropped. There were no children. You couldn't hear any children, and it hit me. The time we're living in right now, the children don't really play outside.
Did you go by? Have you drove by parks? I do this all the time. I drive by parks where there's basketball courts and swing sets, and there's never any children there. Nowhere. And it's not just Florida. It's in Indiana. It's everywhere you go.
Everywhere.
Where are the kids?
Yep. And Pastor, that's one of the main in every dream I've ever had, right? Concerning the Lord, those dreams the Lord gives me, there's no children in the dreams. The only exception to that would be the dream where Texas had fire coming from beneath the ground and above the ground. And that's when I found out a human can scream in a way that is, I never heard a human scream like that. It's a scream of sheer terror where buildings were just, it was bad. It was bad.
Mike, what about these Democrats that left Texas? They're avoiding the vote and they're hiding out in Illinois. How ugly could this end up being if Texas?
They're taunting Texas.
They're taunting. They're taunting Texas.
They're saying, and then I'm going to tell this, I'm going to give you a scenario and that happened in New York. They're sitting in New York and they say, what can Texas do to me? Because I'm in New York. And then one of the New York officials said, Texas has no authority here. They're not going to come here and do anything. They're taunting. Now you're going to have state to state. You know what? I know Satan is behind. This has a spiritual core.
Oh, absolutely.
And Satan has orchestrated this nonsense for a long time.
Yep.
He has sown historical points and artifacts and everything else so that people can be just as twisted as they are now. And you know what? It all reminds me of something, Pastor Paul, it's a scripture. In 2 Peter.
Yep.
2 Peter 3:3 and 3:4, when it says, knowing this first, there shall come in the last days scoffers, walking after their own lusts. That means walking after what they want, and saying, where's the promise of his coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of creation.
That's right.
And it says, for this, they willingly are ignorant of that by the word of God. The heavens were of old, and the earth standing out of the water in the water, whereby the world that was then being overflowed by water perished, but the heavens, and here it is, but the heavens and earth, which are now by the same word, are kept in store, reserved unto fire against the day of judgment and perdition of ungodly men. So God is holding back.
Yep.
All these things that we're saying and talking about, these are things that will take place.
They have to.
But God said he's in this scripture, it says these things are held. They're being held.
Preserved.
They haven't happened yet. They're being held for the ungodly man.
Yes.
Right? So when the Lord lets go of his grace, when his grace is not found, all these potentials are going to happen. That potential in California, it's going to happen. The fires that could have consumed much more than what they are consuming, that's going to happen. The earthquakes that everybody says we're overdue. In fact, everything they say that we're overdue to get is going to take place. We're overdue to get slammed into by some large objects from space. 9.9 plus earthquakes, super volcanoes erupting. All these things are going to begin to take place when God lifts his grace. We're being kept by his grace.
Why the dream I had was so unbelievable. I mean, I saw landslides. I saw fire. I saw look like windstorms that beyond tornadoes. I saw flood. Everything I saw, it was so much. I thought, is this war caused this? What in the world could cause this? This is too many chaotic things. But you're saying it's a convergence. It's all coming. And let me ask you, Mike, these for instance, these lawmakers in Texas that went to Illinois, if they get arrested, if they actually come back and get arrested, or get arrested by U.S. Marshals, let's say in Illinois, this thing is going to go off the rails.
Yes, it will. Yeah, it will.
Our country will go off the rails. I'm not saying they shouldn't be arrested. I'm not saying that what they're doing is right. I'm just saying if that happens, then the whole country goes off the rails. Am I right?
Yep. That's right. That's right. Because all people are going to see is what's the big deal? This is political. And they're going to see the people who are when you're trying to do right, when you're trying to do the right thing, Satan's always going to get the eyes and ears of someone to formulate a new narrative.
Now think about it.
People are going to see that satanic narrative, and they're going to call good evil and evil good, and then the world will erupt.
Whenever the FBI agents armed went into Mar-a-Lago, stormed the former president's home, and took papers that they said were not unclassified, the American public saw that and said, "Whoa, you guys have crossed the line." When they seen the president brought in and his mugshot in Atlanta, people said they've crossed the line. When Loretta James did this prosecution against President Trump in New York, the whole country said they've crossed the line. Okay, now if the United States arrests these rogue Congress members of Texas, there are another whole side of the country going to say they've crossed the line. You know what I'm saying? This is setting up for a massive confrontation.
Yeah. Hopefully people are watching that. And because nobody's arrested anybody yet. They just simply left Texas. But, Pastor, can you imagine? It's also going to cause more people to leave their districts.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
This set an example of things that will continue to happen.
So are people going to move?
If we think Texas is the only state this is going to happen in, nope. It's going to start to happen everywhere.
Yep. It's going to happen all over the country. And people are moving to go to states that they think
they are.
That whether you're blue or red, you're going to go to the
right.
state that you think is
That's right.
is the color of your.
That's right.
And that is dividing this nation.
That's right. That's right. It'll be, you know what, in 2006, I believed this nation would be split into 5 pieces. And
wow.
That's turning out to be a very real thing.
Northeast, west, left coast.
And they're not FEMA. They're not the FEMA locations. This is based on something, because this current move from California to Texas that all these companies made, right?
Yeah.
That started the entire thing. And now we have a division of Democrats and Republicans in a very real sense. And tons of people are starting to move out of certain places, moving into others.
Yep.
I mean, it's happening. So these 5 different places are going to have 5 representatives, and these 5 representatives are going to, they're going to run their own small country within a country.
Are we going to have 5 presidents? Are we going to have 5 nations out of one? I
think it'll end up being a council. It'll end up being a council, and so there we're going to have that. This system.
Who's going to control the military? Who controls the military? Who has the guns? Who has the nukes?
That's got to be based on loyalty. I do believe.
Where does the military? Who's the military going to back?
Well, if we had imagine this. Imagine people start separating in a fight, but then something happens in the world. Right? It's going to minimize the infrastructure. Period. We know we're going to have earthquakes. We know we're going to have volcanic eruptions.
You're right.
We know that storms are going to go. They're going to go hyper on every level. So we know damage is coming. And when that damage arrives, it's going to tear down a lot of the infrastructure. And so based on loyalty and based on commanders, right now you have troops that will follow certain commanders. And I'm telling you, it's not.
Are you getting ready to say
not as unified?
You're going to say that some would follow Obama right now and some would follow Trump?
I'd say, I tell you what, I'm careful with that one with O, because I always say this statement nobody likes, and it's just I'm a crazy person.
I hear you.
But O is going to be taken out of the picture.
Hello.
Period. Is this other one, the true nature? There is a true nature of something. That is quite.
Who's
powerful.
the other one? I mean, wait. Oh, I know. Understand. I know who O is. You're saying he's gonna be. I mean, he'll
be plucked. He's going to be plucked out of the way. Some of these people are just representatives of something else.
Is the coffin dream coming soon?
They're pure representatives.
Is your coffin dream?
Oh yeah, that's coming. That's coming quick. I believe that's coming quick.
That's going to shock the world. That's going to shake the world.
I think that's coming. Pastor Paul, I wanted the stone steps to be done.
Yep.
But then I turned around and had that same crazy dream again. The same one again.
Of the coffin?
The exact, of the stone steps.
Stone steps. Okay.
Again.
You saw it again.
And so, but I tell you what, I'm praying that does not take place. But the people were twice as vicious. I mean, they were twice as vicious. There was no, you can remember the first time I told you about the stone steps and the people were implacable.
Yes.
You had some for and some against, and there was no making peace with. Aren't the people just like that right now?
Yes.
They're just like that dream right now.
And when you told me about the stone steps, I'm thinking, okay, now we're past the stone steps. Okay. Because we kind of basically saw it, but you're saying, no, we're not past it yet.
No, I had that dream again. No. And that is disheartening. That's really disheartening.
And then, of course, the coffin dream, it hasn't happened yet. Yeah. But if that happens...
Things are lining up too quick. Yeah, that's going to be devastating.
It'll be devastating, and this whole country could burn to the ground if it's done, if it happens the wrong way, Mike, I tell you what, we're going to have to pick up this. We're going to have to pick this back up again next week on Thursday night if we're still... capable to. But I want to thank you because this has been incredibly powerful. Yeah.
My honor, Pastor Paul. My honor.
My honor. Let's see. Am I interviewing you next week for the webinar?
Yes,
Yeah,
actually,
yeah,
yes, I received
yes,
that from Sister Heidi.
Okay,
So, yes.
okay, yeah. It's going to be a powerful week next week, getting all those done. Mike, thank you so much for, again, being so faithful with us every Thursday night. It's incredible. So I want to thank you for being with us.
As well, it's my honor. God bless you, brother.
The honor's mine. God bless you. Thank
All
you.
right.